are listening to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast, a place to empower women of color in the music business.
Welcome back to another special episode of Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. This is your host, Janisha Jones, back with another special guest. This time we have Kristine Mbadugha. Kristine is manager of independent label business development and partnerships at YouTube. I've had the pleasure of connecting with Kristine last year at the Music Biz Conference, and she's just been such a huge support system for me and a true sister in this industry. She just exudes big boss energy, so I knew I had to have her on the show. So without further ado, welcome Kristine to Pub Royalty Queen Podcast. How you feeling?
Good. Hello. I'm feeling great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I feel like this is a long time coming, and I'm really grateful to have you on the show. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. Tell us about your journey through the music industry and what roles led up to you becoming manager of independent label business development and partnerships at YouTube.
Yeah, so my music journey, I don't even know where I began. I think Drea said it best in her episode was there is no linear pathway to the business. And so my pathway is definitely not linear at all. I am born and raised in New Orleans, so I inherited music. When you were born in such a culturally rich city, music is just kind of your birthright. You know what I mean? So birthed into the culture of rhythm and blues and jazz. And my parents are Nigerian. I'm Nigerian. So I grew up listening to really all kinds of music. So from Fela Kuti to the Isley Brothers to Miriam Makeba to Wynton Marsalis, like I've always had a passion for music. I just never really envisioned a career in one. Like I used to rent cassette tapes from the local library. Then I got my own CD player because, growing up back then, you don't touch the family surround sound, like six, tiered system. You don't touch that. So once I got my own CD player, I really was a product of like CDs in the ripping era. Like I used to spend so much time on Napster, DatPiff, and like other websites just looking for music that I heard on the radio and wanted to hear again, making countless CDs. And like I said, my parents are foreigners. I'm firstborn. So they wanted a doctor. And because the medical profession to them symbolized stability and security in their eyes, they really wanted me to be secure. I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to take after my grandmother, who was a phenomenal poet. But they told me I'd be broke and I couldn't afford myself. So, yeah. So I mean, I was
wrong,
Yeah. And I mean, it was already expensive back then. So I knew being broke was just not in the cards for me. So, what did I do? I went to pharmacy school. I was a chemistry pharm major, and I spent a year in pharmacy school, and pharmacy school did not show me love. I did not show pharmacy school love. After a year, I was done. I couldn't do it. The science just wasn't for me. I actually just put out and I failed. Yeah, like I qualified for probation while on probation. I didn't even know you could do that. I'm such a type A person. I didn't even know that existed. But yeah, I failed. That was like my first true failure, my first biggest failure in life. And what that experience taught me really was that I had to live for me. I still didn't want to be broke, but I needed to figure out like, what can I do that, made me happy? I enjoyed writing. I enjoyed creativity. I enjoyed the arts, but I did not enjoy being broke. So I went to law school where I really focused in an area called intellectual property. I volunteered at a nonprofit to help, their arts law clinic where artists and creatives and other small businesses came in with their legal issues. And I loved every single minute of it. So when I graduated in law school back in 2015, I took a role as director of communications at a similar nonprofit in Atlanta. And really from there, I just kind of built my experience in copyright and transactional matters like sponsorship agreements, work for hire agreements, so forth, trademark prosecution, spent a lot of time in that space, domain name acquisitions, and just, brand protection and the like. I've really spent 10 plus years working with rights holders and artists to secure, protect, and monetize IP. So my current role at YouTube is just a natural merriment of all that experience and really a full circle moment because I'm now working in the music industry and I never envisioned myself working there. So yeah, that's my story.
There's so many different pathways into the business, and I love your story because a lot of people do feel like they have to kind of be brought up in the game in order to have access to it. But obviously, you just kind of like invested in yourself on the educational front and used other opportunities to gain skill and insight into how you can build a bridge into the music industry. And now you're in like a very coveted role in the music industry too. So kudos to you, sis. I feel like that's going to inspire a lot of other women to, seek opportunities outside of just the traditional route into the business.
Yeah.
And you're also, hearing from the like cultural background as well, the fact that you're surrounded by music, I think that also gives you a lot more of that like, just appreciation for music that we often find a lot of operational folks don't necessarily have. They're just in it for the excitement of the business. So you do have that background. I feel like it's more welcoming to just including this. Did you have mentors? And how crucial are mentorship or is mentorship for success in this business?
Yeah, so I didn't have mentors in the music business, but I've had just life mentors who've really helped facilitate and like shape my career trajectory. And I've been meeting a lot of women in the business who've been really influential to developing and shaping my career. One of them being you, but yes, you.
Oh, thank you.
Your snaps. We're going to give you your flowers because you deserve them. But yeah, like I do think mentorship is really, really important. And I can't say that I have any music specific mentors as of yet, but I definitely have a lot in the industry that outside the industry that have really shaped who I am and how I got here.
What exactly do they do? Like, how do you benefit from mentorship?
Yeah. So it's crazy. I do actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I have one mentor that worked with me at YouTube. He's been in the business on the legal side for a long time. And he, like myself, found himself in a non-traditional, like legal adjacent role. And he's been a mentor in really helping me navigate that space because when you come from the legal world, it's such a niche environment. Branching outside of the legal department or a legal team is very tricky to navigate. So he's been really helpful in like shedding light into, oh, you're really good at this. You should consider X, Y, and Z opportunities. Or you need to talk to this person. They have opportunities for you that you may be interested in, or you two are just two dope individuals that need to meet and talk. And so that's been really great. I mean, I call him a proactive mentor because you've got your passive mentors and proactive mentors. And he by far is one of my biggest proactive mentors. So
well, shout out to the men that are supporting and mentoring us because what I found from the research study is that most women of color, we have same-sex mentors, usually. So the fact that there was a man that saw your potential or sees some talent in you and wants to share that with other people and open your horizons to other opportunities, that's amazing. Shout out to him.
Yes, for sure. Shout out to Kirkland.
So there are so many challenges that are unique to women of color in this industry. Can you describe for us one specific challenge that you've had to overcome?
Yeah, so I would say one specific challenge that I've encountered since being in the music industry, specifically in my area of work, which is essentially streaming, business development, music licensing, there is not a lot of Black women that look like me, on the label side. I don't know what it looks like on the publishing side, but on the label side, my day-to-day, my partners that I interact with, there's not a lot of people on the other side that look like me. So that's been a really big challenge because you then have this kind of feeling where you're on defense mode because you're trying to position yourself as the authority figure and to be taken seriously as a woman, but then also as a Black woman being the only in the room in the sea of, a business that's predominantly white men has also been challenging in kind of developing genuine and organic relationships that way or being taken seriously. So
absolutely. I mean, being tokenized, I always think of it as like just an unfair responsibility that you're placing on a demographic of people. If you're the only one in the room that looks like you, now you're trying to outperform everyone else around you, just to your point, to be taken seriously, or just to have the recognition that you deserve with the work that you're doing. The other thing that kind of comes with that is if you're not in a senior leadership role, there's people that are able to take credit for the work that you are producing. So the majority of us feel a level of discreditation because of the lack of having more of us in these higher level positions. And then just in general, like you have a skill set and qualification that supersedes a lot of people around you. So the fact that you're having to like over-explain yourself, overperform or overachieve, it's kind of like, this is just unfair. Like,
yeah, it's a really tricky place to navigate, right? You know, just within my work environment and externally, you know, I work with so many talented and smart people. So there is a level of, you know, imposter syndrome that sometimes gets the best of me just because I don't have a traditional pathway into the music industry. However, I've been a lawyer for a minute, you know, I'm not new to like the transactional world and negotiations and so forth, but there's just this feeling of having to prove myself, you know, being the kid on the field and, you know, things of that nature. And so, yeah, it's definitely a balance act.
There's so many people from these interviews that I've also just mentioned feeling that imposter syndrome, even when they are recognized, not thinking that they deserve it. Because I think what happens too is once you reach a level of achievement or, you know, one of your benchmarks, because you don't necessarily get the feedback that you're looking for along the way, once you actually reach there, it's like, well, did I really deserve that? I don't know. Is this for like optics? Is this really meant for me? You know, so you're in good company. Although it's unfortunate, seems like a lot of us are also experiencing it.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. What would you say was your mama, I made it moment where you realized you were headed in the right direction? And what characteristics do you attribute to reaching that point?
Okay, my mama, I made it moment. I think I've had two. One is like industry related, and one is just like personal growth related. The mama, I made it moment for me, the first one was when I bought my mama house, 2021.
Snap, 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 snap.
Yes, I'll talk my ish because yes, I bought my mama house. As you know, Nigerians, we take care of family first, and like that was definitely a aha, like I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm capable moment. So I'm still very, very proud of that. And then my second aha moment, it's actually kind of funny because it's not really aha, but it was an aha moment to me because I was with my best friend. So that moment was taking my best friend to the Grammys this past year. Yeah, and having her around all of the parties and just kind of seeing what it is that I do on a day-to-day basis. And her just kind of telling me at the end of the night, like, yo, like you on your shit, like you were such a boss. And I'm just sitting there like, no, I'm not. I'm a regular degular. I work, you know, I'm working streaming. I'm not at a label, you know. She's like, no, like this is dope. And so that aha moment, having another woman give me my flowers in that space and being able to just kind of bring my friends and family along for the ride and the fun stuff. Yeah, definitely fulfilling.
I love it. Well, first of all, congratulations. That is not a small feat to be able to buy your mom a house. You know, it's like paying it back, you know, like thanks for everything you did, moms, for your support, you know, and I'm sure she's absolutely proud of you. And then obviously it's difficult to get into the music industry. And I think what we need to do more is sit with the fact that you've made it here. That's hard enough. And then to sustain a career here and you do something that's meaningful and important. You're literally changing people's lives by being in this business. So yeah, it deserves to be recognized. It deserves to be rewarded. So congratulations. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, sis. And I can confirm when you're out in the streets with Kristine, she is definitely boss lady out here. Okay, make no mistake.
You know, I try and do what I do when I do it. Okay.
I love it. So what advice would you give aspiring women of color in the business? What would you have told your younger self?
I would have told my younger self to follow your passion, like go for it. Like I think for women, I guess foreign women, first of all, first generation women or first generation people in general, we have this pressure to make something of ourselves and to find a secure role that we kind of overlook things that we are good at and that actually make us happy. And in my mind, what you're good at isn't something that you can do well, but it's something that you also enjoy. And so I would tell my younger self to pursue what you are genuinely good at and what you're passionate about. Because who knows, maybe I would have been in the industry earlier on. Maybe I would have been a poet. Maybe I would have been all sorts of things, but life has a way, God has a way of working things out. But that would definitely be, what my advice would be, is just to get out of your head, stop thinking of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, the what ifs, just go for it.
Stars. Stars. I love that because it's true. First of all, there are so many different ways to make a living in this business. And we only ever see like the front-facing roles, those are the ones that are promoted. Those are the ones that we see getting the awards and recognition. But I'm on the back end. You're in the back end too, but you represent kind of the brand. So you are a bit more of the front end as well. But when you're dealing with more of the operational stuff, you don't think about like how that's integral to the business of music and to your clients as well, and how important that really is. So I love that you mentioned that.
And to your point, like there's so much opportunity in this game. There is literally a place for everybody to eat and everybody to find their own lane. I think, because we, like you said, we see these roles of like A&R, we see GM, we see, all of these like artist facing or label facing roles, when there are people behind the scenes that are making things happen, that are bosses in their own right from every spectrum of the business. Like you said, you are a boss in operations and a boss in systems. Never knew that a type of opportunity existed. 10 years ago, I would have never known that, there are IP lawyers in music industry roles, or there are non-legal roles out there that, like business development and so forth. So from finance, from touring, from social media, from every walk of life, whatever you are passionate about and you're good at, I promise there's a space for you in the industry. Yes,
you heard it here. We're advocates for pushing, other kinds of positions and other opportunities. If there was anything you could have done differently, what would that have been? Whether it was a misstep, or a miscalculation, what would it be? And what would you do?
Oh, whoa. Okay. In the industry or just like in life?
Let's stick to the industry. Let's do that. Okay. Yeah.
The industry. I think my one thing I wish I would have done, because I'm a shy person, believe it or not, I am shy. I'm
no.
Like I can do the things and I could be outside, but then I like a week or so inside to myself, and it takes me a minute to warm up to people. But I will say I'm comfortable with networking. However, there are certain people or certain legends in the industry that just kind of have me like, oh my God, in awe. And I had an opportunity to meet one, and I didn't. I let my anxiety get the best of me. And so I wish I took the opportunity just to be, my happy free self and introduce myself, because, you hear all these horror stories about like legends and, execs that,
they don't meet your idols, right?
Yeah, like, if like, who are you? Like, why are you talking to me? Like, you just hear all this kind of crazy stuff. And I'm a chill, go with the flow, like friendly person. And so I just was nervous about that. So that's my biggest mistake, not introducing myself to this one icon and legend. But the next time I see them, girl, it's me.
Yeah, because it's gonna happen. Those moments always do come right back around. So 100%. I'm curious who that person was. You don't have to share it, but now I'm curious. But you're right. And then the other part of it is, there's a level of professionalism that you want to maintain too, right? Like you're coming there to do a job and they're expecting you to show up, professional and to respect their business, whatever it is that you're coming to the table with. And so sometimes it's hard to find that balance of when is the right time to approach this person and ask for that picture or to let them know that you're a fan. And how does that play out? It's just, even like you're an attorney, but I can only imagine they're the opposing party and you're
Right.
representing the company, but you still want to let them know that, hey, I watched you growing up, or I listened to you growing up.
But that mistake that I made honestly propelled me to just be more outgoing, was to like never let an opportunity like that pass. Because I think also often we find ourselves in positions where it's like, if I have nothing of value to offer you, I don't want to waste your time. This business can be very transactional. And I don't like to think of it that way. I think of it as more relationship building that doesn't hinge on what this person can do for me. And so because of that, I've really gotten out my head, and I've just been like, I think the last person I introduced myself to them was like, hey, you don't know me, I don't know you, but I think you're dope. And I just want to introduce myself. I can't do at the moment, but you do this, I do that. So let's have a conversation. And I think when you approach things in a more organic manner than a, transactional, well, this person's not going to want to talk to me because I can't offer them anything. I think it builds a more sustainable relationship in the game. So
it's true. I think that's part of the like networking aspect that people don't know is like you have to just be genuine. People are people, we're all going through our own specific challenges. Obviously, if you can help someone manage some of their challenges in a way that's authentic and true to you, that helps to build a stronger bond. But it doesn't always have to be like that in a transactional relationship. It can just be we were grown up in the same area, or we might have a connection or through a relationship, and those are the stronger bonds. So I think that's great advice to offer. So what are some common misconceptions people have of women of color in this industry?
Ooh, yes. Misconceptions, I think one being that we're not friendly. That is a misconception that I think can change, but I think, at least for me, just speaking on my experience coming into the music industry, it is hard to build genuine relationships with women. When you are a type A hustler on your grind person, you have tunnel vision. You don't really have time for anything else. But I think it's really important to bring people up as you climb. And I think figuring out when that right moment is for a lot of women is hard, especially when you are tunnel vision into your own goals and priorities. But I have met some great influential, friendly women who are very supportive and very just, what is it that you do? I want to learn more. How can I help you? And I think being able to build community around that and watch how that blossoms and grows into like a network of just, amazing women is always important. I think also with that misconception of, us not being so friendly is that I think there is a misconception of having to network up when really you should be networking around laterally and even networking down sometimes, helping build the next future of execs or those aspiring to be in your place because they can be your boss and your boss's boss, in years to come. So
not just that, like as you're leveling up, you have to have someone to replace you, come into your role. So it's good to have that next person that is the next step for them. And you can offer them that ability, keep the door open, in other words.
Right. Because that should be the end goal, right? The end goal shouldn't be to amass this amount of wealth and experience and not be able to impart that on someone else coming up, someone else that aspires to be in your place or is looking to figure it out, And so making time for those people and making time to take a coffee or to hop on a call is really, really important to me.
You're right, though, too, about the lack of friendliness. One of the questions that was on the research study was how do we interact with each other? What are some of the things that we do to each other, have experience with other women of color? And the top thing was cattiness, like that needing to compete with each other. And it's like, listen, we all have a place at the table. We all have a seat at the table. We're only limited by our mindsets. Like And it doesn't serve us to compete with each other, especially because we are the only ones in the room. Like, you need to band together. So it's unfortunate that those are the misconceptions that we have, that other people have of us, but we tend to kind of perpetrate, I don't know if that's the right word, but we tend to feed into them with our own behaviors sometimes.
We do sometimes by like looking over our shoulder and trying to figure out, oh, is this person trying to take my spot? When really, like, no one can take your spot. No one can do what it is you do. That's your superpower, right? And so I feel like we have to establish this mindset that there are multiple lanes to this game, to this industry.
Exactly.
I stick to my lane. My lane is very niche. I can never be an artist manager, artist relations. That is not me. I don't have that background. But what I can do, I do it very well. And I stay in that space. And I think, you know, we all just need to realize what our lane is and how we can flourish in that.
Stars, you dropping gems on you today, ladies. I love it. Okay, so as we were talking about misconceptions and a little bit about like how we can keep that door open, what are some ways that you advocate for women of color? How can we again advocate for each other?
Yeah, so how I advocate for women of color in the business is by showing up for the women of color in the business that I know. You as a prime example, like we built this bond, you know, a year or so in making, and I've watched your journey and watched you blossom, and I've been like there every step of the way. Like, what do you need? How can I support? How can I show up? And I think that's important.
Can confirm.
I think it's important to show up, even if it's just being physically present at where a colleague or like a friend of yours is hosting a panel or is, doing a seminar or is, doing whatever it is, and they need you to support. Like, that's first and foremost how I show up, and how people should show up is just by showing up. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think secondly, the second way we can show up is by being more proactive mentors to other women of color in the industry. Now, being a mentor takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of energy to be a good one. You know what I mean? And so I think it's important to kind of bake into your priorities for the year how you show up as a mentor for others that look like you in the industry.
Amen. I agree. First of all, I want to thank you again for being on the show. You're just such a light in my life. And I know I tell you all the time, but like, she really is supportive. Like, there are a lot of women that are obviously, a lot of women are in my circle now, especially because of the nonprofit by proxy of the work that I'm doing. But to have real advocates standing shoulder to shoulder with you and lifting you up and saying all the things that you need to hear to keep you motivated. Like, you've been that person for me. So I really appreciate you for having my back and obviously for doing the podcast as well. So what can we expect from Kristine in the future? What projects excite you at the moment?
Yeah, so side note, I am a certified yoga instructor. So wellness is my passion, and I've been looking for pathways essentially to merge wellness and music, or merge, the practice of meditation and yoga within the industry. And so I am looking to do more of that in 2023. So stay tuned.
Well, hopefully we can get you to do a seminar or webinar for our juke joint members, because wellness and mental health and all of that is so important, especially in this high-paced industry that we're in. So, and where can people find you if they want to connect?
They can find me on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. My Instagram is private, but if you send me a friend request, I'm pretty sure I'll accept it. It is literally just my first name, last name. That is my handle.
Awesome. Well, again, I just so appreciate you, and I can't wait to link up with you in Nashville in a month.
Yes.
If there's anything you need from me, you know where to find me.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's been really great. Like I said, I am a fan of the podcast as well. So really great to listen to all the wonderful women and their journeys.
Thank you, Kristine. Till next time.
Yes, till next time.
Remember, you for listening. We'll see you next time on Pub Royalty Queen Podcast.